if you're someone from the product world or basically building their own startup, or maybe you take care a lot of things around product in your company, there's one of these concepts which is pretty famous and a lot of people talk about, is basically build with the users. Let's get started. So one of the things in the initial days that happens is if you're sort of in the initial stage of your product and you're sort of thinking about the idea and you have a fair idea of what you want to build, in that process, in general, what happens is there are a bunch of things that you try to do. One of the things would be, sort of to identify who you are exactly building it for, which would be personas, right? The second thing could be, okay, I know most of my competitors, I know where they lack, right? And there will be some sort of competitor analysis, let's say, right? And the biggest thing in the initial days when you're sort of building product, a lot of people do, and eventually you need to take those decisions, but they are based on assumptions, right? Now, these are mostly some of the things that you do called as secondary research, where basically you're sitting in your desk and sort of figuring out what are some of the things that are happening in the market, how you can pull up your own USP and stuff like that, right? And this is how our journey basically looked like, right? And this is something from the background of how we built the initial product of Olvy, and that's sort of the journey that we're going to talk about, right? We knew that we were basically in the market of, um, a market of changelog tool, right? And we also had this problem in our initial days while we were while we were basically doing our um, full-time jobs as well, right? And that's how we sort of understood that, okay, this is something which is needed and a lot of people are basically building it. The thing with our market was that it was basically a saturated market, right? And in this case, it's so saturated market that you would be able to see identical products, like a lot of these changelog tools basically look like each other. And we were like, okay, at least we know the basics of what does a changelog tool need, right? And there would be some of the things that we were anyway on the sites, we wanted to figure it out, right? So while we were building, we were like, okay, these will be the 1, 2, 3 sort of USPs that we'll have. This is how we'll make it better. These are some of the things that we'll do, and these are the first level assumptions that we started building, right? And with the always changelog tool, what happened was that a lot of these basics were already there. Like there would be some of the basics that will be just out there, right? For example, it needs an editor, right? It needs a widget, right? And like an announcement editor, then there will be a widget, there will be a release page. These are some of the things that are already there, and we knew that, okay, before we put in our way of doing things, these are some of the basics that we anyway need to do, right? And that's what happened. We were like, okay, let's probably start building, and we already had some of the USPs in our mind, and we were like, on this basis we'll try to sort of differentiate ourselves. And there are some of the list, we can talk about it in a different video altogether, how you can basically create a differentiator in the market. But in this topic, let's just assume that we sort of um, have the basic right out there, and there was some jazz that we wanted to put in. Like there's some ways of how all we do things in sort of changelog tools, as a market, right? So one of the things while we were building the product, what happened was we were basically, at that one stage, we were in a stage where the basics were working, right? And once we have the basic or the fundamental product or the base of the product was ready, we were like, let's ship it, as crappy as possible. Let's take an MVP approach and sort of go with this base product and sort of try to understand one of the biggest questions that we had with all the USPs that we had, the base of the product that we were building. And one of the biggest questions that we had was basically, are we actually building the right product or not? Right? So the biggest question that anyone has in the beginning is that, are we actually building a right product? Right? This was basically the biggest question that we had, and we were like, how do we go and solve it? What is the best way to do it? The best way to do it was build with your users, right? Now it's not like you just go around and basically try to sell everyone and stuff like that, because obviously there need to be some method to approach it in a certain way, so that you're not building for sort of, you don't start building it for everyone, right? In the initial stage at least, what you need to do is, or basically we took that approach, was find 10 people or basically 10 companies who has this problem, right? And in the initial stages, we decided that make sure these 10 companies love us. That's the approach that we, on a fundamental basis, we sort of started thinking about it. Now, obviously, as I said, you can go around and basically talk to a bunch of these customers or a bunch of these people or a bunch of these companies who might need a changelog tool or any of your tool, right? But what we did was basically, one of the things that we started doing was that, one of the first thing that we did was, we can't go and build it for everyone, right? But can we niche out? Can we niche out in a way that there's certain kind of people that we actually build it for, and they also run a business, they run a SaaS product, or maybe you can sort of start tagging those things, like what are these particular people that you can basically go to and start selling them. So one of the things that we did was, we were like, okay, so in the past we have worked in a SaaS and enterprise product, and we were like, shall we go to companies that are basically, so let me just write the method first. It's like, first thing that you need to do is basically niche out. What we did was basically niched out, and after that we were like, okay, who are these people that we can go inside? We were like, let's talk to some of the SaaS, SaaS products, because these are some of the companies who need a section, or basically would use something called as watch name, and which is like pretty common, and a lot of companies basically try to build a section inside the product to convey all the new stuff, all the new enhancements, all the new things that they are building in the product, and basically tell the users inside the product itself. And that's how we were like, okay, SaaS products and who certainly would need a release page or a what's new as a section page, right? So you're like, okay, cool. So that's the first section that we built in. And the second thing that we went into was, can we niche out to a certain kind of group of people or cohort of people, right? And we were like, who are these people that we can go to? So also, since we wanted to experiment and we in this whole while, the product is just a base, right? There's no jazz or anything that we have put in, or basically something very differentiable or something like that. We haven't done it, right? And what we started doing was, we went to this particular market, which is indie hackers in the initial days, right? There are so many amazing indie hackers out there. There's a very strong community of indie hackers around the world, and why we actually chose them is very simple. We wanted to experiment, as well as in the past, I and Nishant have been a baker in general, and we were basically part of the indie hacker community, and we had a lot of friends out there who sort of building businesses single-handedly, building multiple products, and sort of indie hacking their whole journey, right? So we were like, okay, these are some of the businesses. There are these single-handed people who are basically building SaaS products, and can we actually go to them and sort of ask them if they can come in and sort of use a product, right? So one of the things you can do is basically niche out, start creating a cohort of people that you can actually go to and sort of ask them that in the initial days, would you actually take our product and sort of start using it? So this is exactly what we did. We were like, let's pick up 6 to 10 people, right? And sort of figure out if they would like to use it or not, right? So we made a list of 6 to 10 people where we said, take our product, right, and use it for free for lifetime, right? But in return, all you need to do is basically take care of our bugs, take care sort of you need to sort of look at our bugs. There will be multiple things that might not be working, but would you like to come and sort of start using a product? That's how we pitched them. And one of the ways that we started doing this was, we called it something called as Olvy's Builder Program, where the concept was, and the way we were basically marketing it was, build the product with us. That way we were also trying to create a human connection with these initial potential users that we had. Is that it's not just us who is building the product, but now you are also part of this cohort, and you are the one who is also getting those input, trying to build something with us, and they basically start feeling that this is one of the product that you are building with us, right? And that's sort of the connection that we started building. So what we did was, one of the things that we did was that we sort of went into pitching them. We asked them, can you come over a call and let me just take you through the product. And one of the ways that we did was that in the video call, right, we basically give them the URL. We were like, can you just sign up? And as soon as they sign up, we asked them that when you signed up, can you sort of share your screen and basically showcase how's the product working, right? So we asked them to sign up. Once they signed up, we asked them to share your screen. And one of the interesting things that happened at that point of time, since it was the base of the product, and one of the things in the initial stages that you would like to see how your users are basically using the product, right? And one of the interesting thing that happened was, while we were saying them, come over the video call, sign up and share your screen, how you're using the product, that way we are also looking at the user, how he is using the product, or how the user is basically using the product. That way this also gives us a chance to look at the usability, how things are placed, if people are actually understanding the way we have kept the things and stuff like that, right? So that this is one of the key brownie points that I would say, which comes in, is that in the initial stages you are actually looking at the product used by someone else who could be your potential user, and basically showcasing that, okay, here's where he's clicking, here's where the user is sort of creating their release notes and pushing it out there, right? So this is one of the things that we did, was we called it as an always build a program, and we used to ask them to come over the call and sort of share the screen and showcase how they're using the product. Now once they signed up, right, what we did was we were like, there is still 4 months that we are thinking to be that we will be building, right? And in this 4 months, what happened was we asked them that let's stay connected, and whenever, and just keep the product for free. All you need to do is I'll, like, as a product person, maybe I can reach out to them and be like, okay, this is something that we are adding, what are some of the features that you want? So we started talking to them. We were like, okay, what are some of the features that you want? What are some of the things that you feel like if we add, it will add up on a value to you, right? What are some of the things that you feel like in our competitors, or basically in any of the other products that's not there, but you wanted it to be solved? You can ask Olvy, because we are currently as a genie for you, and basically you can ask us, and we can basically build it for you, right? And eventually, with this sort of method, what happened was we started looking at the patterns of how these users you know asking for what they need. And it was pretty fascinating. And what happened after that, so let's say in the initial stages, now we have onboarded them through a call. We saw one of the brownie points here, that you basically see how your users are basically using your product. Then we started thinking about, okay, what are these patterns that are coming in? And then eventually what happened was, there were some certain kind of features, certain kind of product direction that these users were basically giving to us before even we go and launch, right? And basically giving us a direction towards what kind of product we should be building, right? And then one of the things which was again fascinating, and we also used it in a different way, was that since there were these 6 to 10 people who were part of Olvy before it was launched, and eventually they have already started using the product. Now with these 6 to 10 people before launching, right? Because obviously the first time you launch, you need an audience around yourself. And eventually what happened was, these people became our audience. Even these 6 to 10 people now got converted into our maybe like product ambassadors, right? So with these 6 to 10 people and the connections that we have already made, because we were giving exactly what they wanted, we were sort of talking to them, eventually started talking to them. We were very connected with this first set of people, and eventually what happened was, they started talking about us, like, this is how they're using Olvy. They were talking about, there's this new release that has gone out and it's powered by Olvy and things like that. So one of the things that happened before the launch was, there were like already some of these evangelists who were already out there and can talk about our product before we launch, because they have already used the product, so they know what was the quality of the product, how they're using it and stuff like that, right? So one of the things that again came as a brownie point was, it's like, before launch you have some of the marketing strategy already created. you have some of these people who have already used it. It's not like you're launching without any users, right? It's not like launching without someone who is without any users in general, right? So this is also one of the things that came in as brownie points, was basically you were sort of able to create these product ambassadors for yourself. And eventually, after 4 to 6 months when we launched it, a lot of these customers, a lot of these users started talking about us, and these initial users itself sort of amplified for us to go towards the next step, right? So building with the users is nothing but literally building with them, right? The whole idea is that if there's a chance to build someone who's going to use your product, there's nothing better like that. So this is sort of was the journey of how Olvy initially, how we did things at Olvy, what was the build program all about, and how you can also take an inspiration and probably set it up in the initial stages of your product building. And hope this video sort of helped you out in some other way. And yeah, would love to know your thoughts. What do you think about building with users, and and did you actually like the approach that we did? Also, just one last thing. If you like what you just saw today, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, we are creating a Discord community of product people called ProductHoomans. The link will be in the description down below, and stay tuned. Goodbye.